happening in the beginning of May might be the most stacked Smash tournament of all time. Kagaribi 13 is now looking to be bigger than any tournament that's happened post-pandemic, and potentially even bigger than the biggest Smash tournament of all time, EVO 2019. So already you can see that there is a bunch of the top, almost all of the top 10. I think Sox is the only one who can't go, unfortunately, due to having to go to a college event, sponsored event. You already see a lot of the best players in the world, a lot of international invaders, a lot of North Americans' best players showing up. There's also, further down the list, a lot of Europe's best players showing up. This is going to be one of the biggest international melting pots in general of any tournament that I could think of. And the fact that this is happening 6 years into the game shows that the passion for this game is still here. Maybe it's not as much in North America or as it was, but the main scene, the biggest scene in the game, is still going strong, and there's no tournament that really showcases it like this one. There are a stupid amount of good players that are going to be at this event from across the world. Whether they're from top 100, whether they're top ranked in Europe, whether they're top ranked in North America, a bunch of names are here, and it's going to be quite the slobber knocker. There's also some really interesting, like, international, like, Yu's going to be here after a really good Genesis. I think also, if we go further down, there's some players from Southeast Asia who are out here, as well as Australia, some South America. This is essentially the new international event, which is super exciting. This is going to be one of the best events that we're going to have in years. I think everyone is looking forward to this event. I think it's going to be something that is really going to be something special for the scene. Even if we end up with just not a fun grand finals, it's just one of those events that you cannot miss, and you're going to ruin your sleep schedule for, because it's going to be one of the best to watch in all year. Something that was interesting that I started looking at for a future video that I'm doing on my main channel was the math top 50 players that have been at tournaments in the past. And when you look at the top 50 for each, Kagaribi 13 right now is tied with EVO for the most top 50 players at a Smash Ultimate tournament, tying at 37. Now, you may realize at the first four on this column, none have come close to Smash Wii U. Obviously, we'll never have a tournament like Civil War where almost the entire top 50 was there. And at this point, we most likely never will, just due to how international the top 50 is, where it's really tough to get all the Japanese and European and American and Canadian and Mexican players all in the same area. It's just as a huge financial payoff that is just not able to be really done nowadays. Kagaribi's might be the is going to be the closest we're going to get to it, and there's a chance that it might hit 40, exceeding EVO 2016 and really hitting the upper echelon of the most stacked event in Smash's history, or I should say in Smash Ultimate's history. What's really interesting about it being Kagaribi 13 is that, as I said, we're 6 years in, and Kagaribi doesn't have like a prize pool. So if you're going to this event, you're going to compete for essentially your rank to be one of the best in the game, or just to really experience Japan and the Japanese scene. So the fact that so many international players are attending this event is really showcased that this event has essentially in the same level now as Genesis and SmashCon, or excuse me, Supernova, and it's one of the most attended events of the year, which I think is really sweet that we have something outside of the United States that in Smash in general that is like that. The only other, actually no, I can't even think of any other scene that's ever had an event to this extent where everyone attends. Like the only one that I can really think about is 64 has a big event in Peru and Japan sometimes that international players will attend, but not to this level. It's really cool to see that another scene finally has that kind of level of tournament, and I really hope Kagaribi is able to continue that trajectory to be standing toe-to-toe with the biggest events of the year that you have to go to, because Japan is all like, after all they've built up, they really deserve something like that. That being said, as I said, we're just never going to get, I think, everyone in the same spot, especially as the scene gets more and more international. We're seeing European players pop off more. We'll probably see more of them in the top 50. Japan's doing strong. There's always going to be the States and rest of North America. So it's just going to genuinely be impossible to hit this level of Like not even Supernova last year or Genesis X last year, which were two of the biggest events of 2024, were able to hit that level. They barely hit over 30. And even some of the biggest events in modern hold history, like Port Priority, like Kagaribi 10, like SmashCon 23, like the recent Genesis, Battle BC 5, just weren't even able to get 30 of the top 50 in attendance. And it shows just how easy it was back in the days in the Wii U when North America was the region dominating the rankings. Maybe it was because the rankings were a bit more North American biased back then, but at the same time, doesn't really matter in terms of that's just the scene was North America. You had to go to say fucking SoCal for 2 GG events or else you're missing out, or to go to Genesis you had to go to the West Coast for EVO. Like there was it was a completely different scene back then. I guess it's just really, really cool to see Kagaribi become that kind of level of event and potentially just the most stacked. I don't think that it was something I was expecting for this Kagaribi, and it's just sick to see so many players recognize that like there is an event to this level that you need to attend, not just due to its like effect on the rankings, but like it's built up a prestige to stand amongst the titans of the event space. And I think that's just like, that's really cool that we got to that point. And I hope one day we also get that for like Europe to have their own event that hits the same way, because they also really deserve to have an event that so many people attend.